What is up, my people? My name is the Fire Ping, and my real name is Desmond. Okay, that was the weirdest thing I've ever said already. I just got out of the live stream with Caubengungo guy. I didn't remember. That's how I say that guy. Caubengungo. I don't know, but I just came out of his live stream. I did went into a match, and I got I like keep getting like knife attacks like 2 or 3 times every match. So I don't know how. The only thing that I have was a freaking crowbar and a Nepal knife, and that's it. So great freaking live stream. If you want to see any live streams in his channel, him doing event live streams, go into his channel at 7:30 or 8, and there's gonna be a live stream. He's gonna tell us about the numbers or anything like that, so we could go into a room and with a password. Thing that is important is that you have to be quick, because there's 1.5 to 2,000 players who are gonna join you. So yeah. AN. This is chapter 20. 4 stories, 1 path. So Wolf, Jack, Pete, and Calamity. They're all in first person of something different this time. I've written first person for a while, so I decided to do it, and I decided to do it a turning point of view. So enjoy. And constructive criticism. If I should do these more often or not. So Wolf's POV. I opened my eyes to find a sight that I did not want to see. I was shackled to a chair, appeared to be falling apart. The sight that worried me the most was the blood that covered the floor. Most of it was fresh. The bland concrete room was empty apart from the chair I was shackled in another chair that appeared to be empty. Aggravated voice yelled out nearby. "Don't make me do it, Corinth. Just step out of the way." I tried to break my shackles, but despite how old they look, they were in surprisingly good shape. 5 seconds later, the old door was thrown open, and a pissed-off sunflower stormed in. Piss off! She was dragging a repeater and a pea-shirt. Sunflower looked at me and said, "Good, you're awake. Just in time to watch these two get taught a lesson how to teach a lady." If I revolted at the sunflower, 2 places later, her roots had clearly been having a tough times, cuts and bruises coming all over them. Grabbed the deranged sunflowers and said, "You're a maniac. Look at him." The sunflower simply smiled at me and said sadistically, "I have, and you will look like them if you don't cooperate." I glared at the sunflower and said, as intimidating as I could, "You asked me to try, so don't look surprised." Wait. I would like to see you try. Before I could react, she had grabbed my throat and began to tighten her grip as she said, "You asked me to try, so don't look surprised." I continued to glare at her, but the world was slowly being engulfed in darkness. Just as I was about to pass out, Sunflower yelped in surprise when she was pulled off of me by the pea-shirt. What I noticed was Pete. Pete said weakly, but the defiance in his voice, "Not my friend." Sunflower has pushed Pete off herself and said, "You idiot. If I didn't want you, I would kill you." While Sunflower tried to subdue Pete, Peter had picked himself up and was trying to unshackle me. Sunflower noticed and knocked the repeater out before they could unshackle me. I looked at the sunflower in shock. She was supposed to heal, not hurt. I growled at her, but I didn't bother speaking. It took the sunflower over 5 minutes to bring Pete down. When she did, she laughed at the beaten pea-shirt and said, "Not much of a fighter, Pete." I looked at Pete in shock as he groaned and said, "I'm not going to hurt you. I can't." Sunflower continued laughing at him and said, Stupid boy. You're worse than your own brother. Now it's changing to Jack's POV. I opened the gate into a small graveyard. Stone carving of my grieving ice-beam mother still chilling. I walked across the yard into the house. It seemed like that Josie still hadn't moved. More small house to the sound of movement in the attic got my attention. Headed into the attic to find the same fire pea I had met on the bus the night before, searching through some of the boxes. I slowly approached him and asked, "Hey, why are you here?" He jumped out of the box he was looking through, a look of terror in his face. I realized who I am. He relaxed a little and said, "I'm here with a friend of my dad. We're looking for him, but neither of them have appeared and I'm worried." Looked at the fire pea, who appeared to be on the verge of tears, and said, "Well, I'm here looking for a sunflower. You seen her?" Smaller fire pea nodded and said uneasily, "Yeah, she walked off with my dad's friend not long after we arrived." Took the fire pea off and said, "Come with me, please." Fire pea nodded uneasily and made our way out of the attic. I looked at Fire pea and asked, "I never got your name, kid." He looked at me uneasily and said cautiously, "It's Desmond. Desmond Lathyrus." I said in shock, cutting off Desmond. "You're a Lathyrus as well?" Fire pea nodded again and I continued, "Well, my name is Jack Lathyrus. And who's your father?" Desmond looked at me and said, "Pete Lathyrus." I stepped away from Desmond and stammered, "Pete, my brother. Look, he could be in danger, so get up into the attic and stay there. I will get you if I find him." I ran down the hallway and threw open all the doors until I found a sight that shocked me. And then Pete's POV. The knife Josie held to my throat was slowly beginning to dig its way into my stomach. I bit back to say anything she wanted. She went on about how much more pathetic I was compared to my brother, arguing wasn't gonna get me anywhere anytime fast. Just as Jolie said she was going to end my life, the door was thrown open and an angry-looking Pisher stormed their way. Quickly realized that it was my brother. Josie stopped mid-stroke and said in a disappointed voice, "Oh, it's you! I told you we're done. Guess we aren't a thing anymore." Jack nodded at her and said, "I hear for your life, not your heart." Josie threw onto the side and lunged at my brother. Jack dodged her and I threw him the knife Josie has been holding to my throat. Jack got the knife and placed it into Josie's heart. She laughed at Jack and pulled the knife out of her sock, blood pouring out of the hole, and stabbed my brother nowhere important. Jolie collapsed on the floor while Jack looked at her with an expression of longing. It's a calamity now. I slowly walked over to the crying sunflower and placed my undead pot over her shoulder. She initially recoiled from contact, quickly accepted it and said as softly as I could, "Don't worry. I'm sure he'll be fine." Ali looked at me, tears pouring out of her eyes, and said, deep sadness in her voice, "How do you know? Why do you care? He nearly killed you." I looked back at her and thought for a second before saying, "Just know. And I care because I lost control and I had to pay the price." I looked away from Ali until she did expect to hold me into a hug. I returned her gesture and she said softly, "Thank you for not leaving me." I smiled weakly and she said as softly as my undead voice let be, "Thank you for still believing I can be saved." So now, not with the POV, now it's a loss not worth it. A loss that's not worth it? Give it to me, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. Calamity and Ali sat together on a lawn hugging. Neither plants wanted to be let go, but they both knew that they couldn't be together. Calamity was first to break embers as he pulled away from Ali and said, "This is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this." I looked at the undead Pisher and said questioningly, "What do you mean?" Calamity realized what he said and began to panic inertially. He looked at Ali and said cautiously, "I can't say. I promise I wouldn't." I rushed on Calamity, who slowly shifted away as she said, "Tell me, Calamity. Don't make me ask twice." Calamity stopped trying to get away from him and said quietly, I am not going back on my words. Don't know, want to be who I was in life. Let it be like. I looked at Calamity. He was biting back tears and said, please don't speak of this. Bernard has a crush on you. I stared at Calamity in shock, who stared back at her, fear in her eyes. Two plants stared at each other for over a minute, till Ali broke the silence. Bernard likes me? What? Calamity continued to stare at Ali as he slowly nodded his head. For a few seconds, sound of rocket racing towards the two planets snapped her thoughts. Just as Ali realized the rocket was aiming for her, memory of her brother's death flashed before her. Seconds into the memory, she would appear she was being knocked out, snapped Ali from her memory. Ran to find Calamity lying on the floor, unmoving, a large burn mark on the front of his stomach. Not wanting Calamity to suffer the same fate of Ali's brother, she revived the drowned, undead Pisha and helped him get into cover. Wait, so Ali still gets the freaking thing. Pete got up, unshackled Wolf from resistance that held him down to the chair. Wolf jumped out of the chair and immediately hit the floor. Something had sapped all of the energy out. Looking around, Wolf realized that he sapped the energy out of. Wolf realized what had sapped him the energy out of him, where it was connected to the lower parts of the stem and led the whole kind of room. Wolf also noticed something that made him worry the most. The color in the stem was slowly draining away from its customers, swirling dark blue to light blue, and was continuing to lighten up. The Wolf could rip out the wire. Pete had pulled it out and was gripping Wolf's stem. Wires had been attached. Blood was beginning to flow out the hole. Wolf looked around towards Jack, who was sneaking up behind Pete. The knife he had pulled out of his stem. Jack could insert the knife into his brother's back. Wolf had shot him and knocked Jack back away from his brother, and also alerted Pete to the danger he was in. Despite not wanting to harm his brother, Pete knew that if he didn't, he wouldn't see daylight again. Getting up, Pete grabbed the knife Jack had dropped and placed it in his brother's chest and whispered, I wish you didn't have to come to this. Give Mom my love, brother. Jack smiled weakly before going limp into Pete's arms. Laying his brother on the floor, Pete bit back the tears that threatened to burst forth and revived his brother. Cornus got up and ran over to Jack's corpse and cried out, What happened? Not my son! Peter was leaning over Jack's body as he let the tears fall. Peter was busy leaning over Wolf as she covered the small puncture wound that Wolf had in the lower part of his stem. Pete got up and walked over to the curtain, covered the dirty windows, and ripped off some to use as a band-aid to cover the small wound. When Pete finished covering the wound, he helped Wolf up and the two parents walked over to Pete's grieving father. Peter didn't notice his last remaining son grab the other's backpack and go through it. Pete searched through the pack till he found the item that has been causing Pete grief since he learned of it. Pete and Wolf looked through the documents. Most of the names has been crossed out, while Pete's name has been crossed out, rewritten, then crossed again. Two plants looked at the document. There were a few names still uncrossed. Josie, Anne, Sarah, Herschel, Mystic. The other names stood out to Pete. The most shocking thing on the document was Hodge's family. Wolf looked at the names in disgust and said, Shame Jack didn't get any at them. The one who nearly ended all of us with a damn Hodge. Pete slapped the weak plasma Pete and said, That's cruel, Wolf. They made a mistake. Get over it. That was 14 years ago. I mean, this is an entire family we're talking about. Both sides. They're the reason. It doesn't matter. He looked at Wolf uneasily and said, We'll find out what we're talking about eventually. But first, we have to get out of here. Wolf looked at Pete uneasily and said, Agreed, but, Pete? There's something I have to tell you. I may have you brought your son here. Allison paced around the Leaf headquarters lobby as she waited for her name to be called by a cactus that sat behind a desk. Cactus typing away at a computer, doing whatever her job was. For 5 minutes, Cactus called out Allison's names. Allison went to the desk and the reception pointed Allison to a room at the end of a hallway that branched off the right-hand side of the base. Allison thanked Cactus and set off for the room. Inside a small meeting room sat an Agent P that Allison hadn't seen for more years than she could remember. Agent P He noticed her. He said, "Allison, it's good to see you. It's been years." Allison blushed lightly and she took a seat opposite the aged P and said, "It's good to see you too, Jack. Look, my son has gone missing." Jack looked at Allison, concern in his face, and he said, "You'll find him, Allison. Do you have any ideas where he could be?" Allison looked at the agent opposite her and said, "Fortunately, no. Wait, hang on." Her tone changed from sad to optimistic as he said he was going to the place Pete's story started. We didn't know how to find him. Jack smiled at Allison and said, "I took the liberty to call in a few friends when I heard you were coming. I hope you don't mind." Another room opened up and a fire cactus, fire chopper, fire Pete walked in, each of them with smiles on their face. Some smiled back at them and said, "John, Elias, Jamie. It's been too long." Fire cactus named John stepped forward and said, "We heard you need some help. That was a great opportunity to get out together and go on another mission together." Listen continued grin at the fireplace before and said, "I couldn't think of any better plans to help." So the realization struck Allison like a ZPG, despite the fact she had never been struck by a ZPG. What the hell? She realized that she wouldn't have Pete by her side. The only plan she thought always be with and never forget, she had managed to forget briefly. Just briefly. So the anger of Saturn. Ali and Calamity leant against the wall they were using as cover. Neither planes knew where the rocket had come from. A dark voice spoke out from the down street. The voice looked like a deeper version of Calamity. "Come out! We'll end it quickly if you do." Calamity looked over the wall and called as intimidating as he could, "I'd like to see you try." Before the undead creature could react, he was sent out onto his back by a rapid baggage of spikes and yellow pellets, getting knocked out the second time in a minute. Ali quickly revived Calamity and pulled the spikes out of his ball. It appeared to have been from a cactus. Calamity was growing deep in his throat as he said, "Ali, get out of here." Ali cut Calamity off, said in a terrified voice, "No, I'm not going to leave you here to die. Go, don't make me have to make you, Ali." I looked at the undead Pisha with her expression angry. "I may not be an Asuke, but I can fight." I had to push her again. Yada, "Go, Ali! Please! Please!" Till I was on the verge of tears. I grabbed Calamity and made him walk with him. I watched out small Ali off the side of the square he had been in not long ago. Watched in shock as Ali helped Calamity up despite the undead Pisha trying to push her away. When I watched Ali and Calamity, felt something deep inside her. He liked Ali a lot, but he realized she probably didn't like him. Ron turned away from the square and said quietly to himself, "Why are you so surprised? Who would like a stupid, slobbery chopper like you?" Bernard slowly wandered to the small confines of the apartment block he was using as his home, so he found out somewhere else to go. When finding his room, dark purple gas began to fill it. Before getting a chance to react, gas quickly engulfed the sad hot rod chopper. Bernard roared out in pain, and after a few seconds, his whole world was engulfed in darkness. Had been hit hard by the heavy ordnance the foot soldier fired the rocket launcher on their backs. So Bernard is now dead. Wolf pushed Pete away from himself as Peach's expression changed from a question one to an anger. Pete glared at Wolf and asked, "What? Please tell me you didn't." Wolf turned Pete and said quietly, "He's in the attic." Pete cut off, adding, "You brought my son into the small remains of Somburbia. Wolf, word can't describe what I will do to you if I find my son dead." Pete quickly recoiled in shock in what he had said. Something snapped inside him and expression changed sympathy as he said quietly, "Wolf, I didn't mean to say that. Something weird told over my senses." Now I looked at his dead son's corpse and said in a voice curling self-loathing, "Can't explain that. Your mother was the real Laris. I was, and I still am, a sad of him. Wolf looked at Conrad with a glare that could scare even a chomper. You coward! Your family are the reason I nearly died. You all deserve to be thrown to the zombies. Pete and Conrad looked taken back by Wolf's anger. Conrad looked at Wolf and said quietly, I'm sorry. I had no idea. My ex-family caused so much discord and pain. Wolf cut Conrad off as he yelled, Of course you're sorry after you meet someone who can kill you. Don't deny it. You're still one of them. Conrad felt the anger in him building. He let the savage inside of him take control as he yelled, If you kill me, my family will come and get you, bastard. You don't underestimate the power of Satyam family. He looked at his mother and said angrily, If you kill me, my family will come and get you. Oh wait. Dad, if I have to, I will stop you from harming anyone. Mother simply laughed and said in a deranged voice, Good luck. You're a bastard. You were an accident. And Conrad paused for a few seconds before continuing. We're always a failure to me and your mom. Pete had cut Conrad off by punching him in the face in anger. Wolf grabbed Pete before he could beat his father to death and said, Pete, stop. Think, remember? You're a Lathyrus. You help protect. You aren't a Sanavim. Wolf felt Pete stop resisting and started to cry. Wolf let the distraught Pete down and said, Pete, I'll go get your son. Don't do anything drastic. Wolf began to laugh at his son and said, I always knew you were the weak one. You were never cut out to be a pincher. You should have been a walnut, god dang it. At least then you could have done something with your pathetic life. He looked up at his father, fury in his dark brown eyes. His father simply laughed at him and continued to rant. Don't look so surprised. You knew it all along. You were always a disappointment to us. What's that matter? You're just gonna cry? You aren't gonna say anything? You aren't even gonna fight back? He continued to glare at his father. Get out of my sight. I don't want to hurt you. Murray stood up and walked over to his son, laughing all the way. To his son, he stared right back in Pete's eyes and whispered, Or what? If you don't want to hurt me, then you have no leverage against me. He grabbed his father by the throat and said meaningfully, I don't want to hurt you. Doesn't mean I'm not going to. Murray's expression didn't change, so Maniacal's spine said, Do it. Prove me you are my son. Prove to me you're a Sativum and not a Lathyrus. Pete's grasp weakened and his father took advantage of his son's hesitation. He shot his son twice, got off of himself and onto their back. He comes hobbling Pete and said, That's why the oh-so-noble Lathyrus family is dying out. None of you fight back, even if your lives are on the line. Allison stepped through the portal that she hadn't used since the end of the war. The purple gates remained open until the rest of her team were through. She looked around the area that she had been teleported to. So she was presented with chilled her. The elaborate tombstone was topped stone carved with grieving ice fissure that Allison's attention the most. She approached the tombstone and read the epitaph, but she read it shocked. It was the grave of Pete's mother. Joan approached Allison and said, Look, we're about to head inside and have a look. You come in? Allison stood up and nodded. The fire plants walked cautiously into a rotting house and still on the lawn. The sound of an argument alerted the group of fire plants who ran off towards the argument. Allison was first to reach the room. The argument was taking place. What she saw shocked her. Pete lay on his back, stunned, while a maniacal-looking repeater laughed down with the most shocking sight with her son and Wolf, shackled into chairs at the end of the room. Wolf looking weaker than normal. Allison shot the repeater until they collapsed, which shocked all the plants in the room. Allison rushed forward towards Pete, where she asked James and Joan to unlock said Wolf. Allison helped Pete up, but quickly tackled him to the ground and yelled in anger, You stupid, stupid boy! You have no idea how sickened with worry I am! Almost immediately her expression and tone changed from anger to care as she pulled to hug and continued, And I hope I never lose you again. I don't wanna lose you again. Do 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 do. A party at Leaf. Everybody's getting cheeky. There's a party in the Leafy. That is not copyrighted from Club Penguin. Actually, it is. But nobody gives a dang. So anyhow, yeah, that's actually copyrighted from Club Penguin. Everybody's getting icky. That's the party in the Leafy now. My son's going party in the Pacific Jam, going to leave in a party in a limit, man, to leave that grows like a blowing snow. There's a party in the Leafy and I'm often ago. I don't know. Allison helped Pete to the street and said softly, "Don't care how much you think running off by yourself helps, but taking the blow for us isn't what we should be doing." Pete looked at Allison with a look of sight, anger, and said, "So I shouldn't do what my heart tells me to? I should ignore my good side and let everyone else get hurt? Allison, that would kill me faster than taking a physical blow." Another side continued to say softly, "Didn't mean it like that. Just please. Remember the promise you made me 14 years ago. Promise not to leave me or die. I feel like that promise doesn't matter to you anymore." He kisses Allison lightly for saying as softly as she could. Of course it matters. It's kept me alive for so long. I don't know where I would be without you. So Allison smiled weakly and joked, "You wouldn't even exist. You would have withered away by now." Pete smiled back at Allison and went to kiss her again. Eyes that watched two hands slip off. Okay, kissing is a bit not in public. Wait, if I say that means I'm abnegation? Who knows? But there's no factions here. There's no factions here because there's no factions for ponies. Okay? So back from each other, looked at the other plants awkwardly. Joe's the first break. Think we should be going. Apparently the plants back at Leaf headquarters are throwing a party to celebrate the anniversary of when we broke the siege around the main mall. While the plants began to file out the small, bare concrete room, something strange ran through Pete's stomach and said, "I need you to do something first. Desmond and I think Allison. Could you both come with me?" Desmond and Allison simply nodded their heads and followed Pete into the graveyard towards the main tombstone still in the center. Pete grabbed a couple of flowers near the house, placed them at the base of the tombstone, and said, "Hey, Mom, you have no idea how much I miss you and how much I wish you could meet my girl plant and your grandson." Desmond stepped away from the tombstone with his statue of Ice Speed. He realized that he would never meet his dad's parents. Ever. And it made him feel bad for his dad. Allison stood beside Pete and whispered to the tearful Pete, "I wish I'd been able to meet her as well. Seems like she was a great plant." He pulled Allison in a hug and said, "I'm not going to let you suffer the same fate as her. I promise." Allison felt something inside her break as she and "No, please no. Pete, don't make a promise that drastic. I know how far you'll go to honor that promise." Pete frowned and said sadly, "Let's go. I don't really want to be here anymore." Allison grabbed Pete while Pete grabbed his son as three plants walked together towards the other fire plants and Wolf. James grabbed a temporary portal canister, opened it and said, "See how I leave." That the fire Pete jumped through the purple portal, which was quickly followed by Joan, Alice, and Wolf. Wolf went through. The family of three stepped through together to the eccentric-looking citrus cactus. He stammered in shock. "Pete Lathyrus? I thought you were dead." Pete frowned and said sadly, "Your lack of trust in my abilities, it hurts." Pete quickly laughed at the distraught-looking citrus cactus and said, "It's fine. I was the idiot who faked their death." After talking to citrus cactus, Pete, Alice, and Des walked together in a large lobby of heart of a large metallic leaf base. The family of three got a large shock. There really was a party. Really was a party coming on. After a few seconds, someone yelled out in surprise, "Pete, Hey Cole, come here! In a few seconds, a Commando Pete and a Chomper burst out of the crowd. Both clans were surprised and printed on their face. And the Commando Pete shooter sat in complete shock. But Pete? It's been too long since we've been able to talk. Pete glared at Commando Pete and said, Look, Peter, we could have talked a few weeks ago. Commando Pete shooter named Peter cut Pete off and said, No, we couldn't. Colin had me marked as a target, and I talked my way out of it. When I found out you were alive, I started to gain some hope that I could return for a normal life, and not one restricted by Colin and his cronies. Pete looked at Peter in shock and said, surprised, If I knew, I would have tried to help. Pete and Cole smiled at their old Pete-shooter friend, and Cole said, I thought you knew we were tough enough to hold our own. When Pete replied, Vivian Wolf and a familiar-looking berry shooter said, Hey! Pete smiled and said, Adrian! It's been far too long. Adrian simply smiled smugly and said, It has. Heard about all you've accomplished during the old wars. I'm impressed. So young and you've done so much. Pete smiled and said with a grin on his face, Thank you, Adrian. You accomplished more than me, though. I was just doing my job. Adrian smiled and said, You're too humble. Take some pride in what you did. Allison pulled Pete from the group and plants that surrounded them said quite happy, See, I told you. What you do is beyond what asked for you. Pete smiled back at Alice and pulled her into a hug. After a few seconds, someone lightly tapped Pete on the back of the stem. So Pete and Allison broke their embrace, and Pete turned to face the clan that had tapped from behind. Peter stepped back from the hulking armored chomp, stood in front and asked, yeah? Our chomper's expression changed to one of realization. We said, yeah, it's Pete, right? My name is Aim. We met about 10 years ago at a meeting here. Pete looked at Anne with a look of thought for saying, yeah, I remember an Aim, but I'm sure the last time we met you were... Cut Pete off and said, the classic chomper? I was. A lot has happened and yeah, I mean you definitely know what it's like to deal with a life-changing event. Luke was looking at Allison, who was holding Des. It looked like they were going to hyper in the crowd at any point. He went to speak, but an explosion blew the front door open and a large number of plants yelled out in surprise. All stood a large group of zombies. The one on the front has a succession as Zomboss. The scientist held a strange-looking blaster and wore a large lab coat. It was very well kept. The scientist at the front smiled deviously and said meaninglessly, Are we late for the party? The zombie finished his sentence. Multicolored pellets flew into a large base. Large number of plants being felled quickly. Most plants began to fall back deeper into the base and find cover before fighting back, and looked around before charging towards zombie. He looked at Allison and said, Take yourself and Desmond deeper into the face and find cover. If I fall, don't come and get me. He kissed Allison quickly before hypering towards the group of zombies that were beginning to flood into the base. He dropped a chili bean bomb into the horde and vanquished a large number of zombies. As they were bottlenecked in the middle-sized hole, Pete kept moving and shooting. He dodged a majority of bullets, the adrenaline pumping through Pete, numbing the pain and letting him stay in the fight. Pete looked around to see the scientist that was leading the group aiming a strange weapon at the plasma Pete immediately recognized as Wolf. Pete, acting out instinct, shot the weapon out of the hands of the scientist but it could shoot and said, Not my friend. The scientist picked up his weapon and aimed it at Pete. He still didn't pull the trigger. He hesitated for a second, which resulted in Pete being vanquished by a large amount of firepower. The large number of foot soldiers could concentrate. Smiling deviously, the leader of the zombies said to the General Supreme of beside, Cover my position. I need to go investigate the nuisance. The leader of the zombies shot Pete with a strange device and whispered to himself, Sweet green pest. Uncle would be proud of me taking his invention to the next level. Bring pain one of his biggest pains. Before he could react, the leader of the zombies was knocked across the room across the hold when he tackled from behind by an armored chomp, was unharmed by most of the shots fired. The zombie cried, Screw you, Wayne! You ruined my uncle! Now I ruined you and your friends! The zombie changed his attention to a small fire piece hypering across the room, short thrown curved fire protruding from one of their right paws. He shot down with a weapon he held in his hand and yelled again. Desmond, tell your pitiful... Oh wait. Desmond, tell your pitiful father that my uncle will get his revenge. Trial by vases. Peter woke in a dark forest they had seen before. Sitting up, he looked around the clearing he was in. Groans of the undead nearby, but hidden by the trees. Pete stood steps toward the tree with a loud boom sound echoed through the clearing out of nowhere. It was quickly followed by a deep, ominous voice that said, Pete Lathyrus, you've been a thorn in my side for far too long. I've gifted my nephew my new laboratory to continue the war and bring about the fall of plants that made my life the hardest. Pete ignored the voice and stepped into the trees, and only 10 seconds in, something impaled Pete through the chest. Pete collapsed onto the ground, and he was engulfed in darkness. After a few seconds, Peter woke to find himself leaning against a wall in a destroyed shop, fire burning nearby, deep cut running down his stem. Peter looked around in confusion, and an ominous voice spoke out again. Don't look so confused, Pete. In this realm, if you die, you'll come back. So you'll die over and over again till you escape. And I know you never will. When the ominous voice stopped, a deep, maniacal laugh echoed out, and a gulster slammed its way through the collapsing shop. Smiled Judas. Pete only groaned and readied himself for coming rapid barrage of golf balls. He didn't yell out in pain as the gulster quickly fell. He entered the darkness again. This time, Pete woke on a cold stone floor of a large structure. He'd never seen before. Once the dark, ominous voice spoke out and said, I've got to warn you, every time you die in this realm, your physical body loses the will to resist the fluid that's keeping you here. So let's say you have lives. The moment you lost 2. On average, most plants have 5. You have 12, so you have 10 lives, Pete. Use them wisely. Pete's son growled at the dissembled voice and said, What sort of sick game is this? Except they laughed back and said, A game where your life, your son's life, Wolf's life, and other few plants' life are on the line. As the voice finished, vases of varying sizes fell from the ceiling and landed on the floor. The voice spoke again, this time it was more commanding to pass this level. He simply has to smash all these vases. But remember, each vase is a different thing. It has a brown coat or a disc goes on. A plant or a bomb? We'll know till it's open. Pete frowned and looked at the various vases. No, to begin. Pete saw Tick smash open the vase that stood for him, so he shot it. They smashed in pieces, and Anne fell out. The armor chopper looked disorientated as he came to his senses and said, What the? Where am I? He looked at a confused armor chopper and said, I don't know, the only thing I know is that we have to smash these vases for some strange feat. We just have to smash these vases. Yeah, but there's a lot of different things in these vases. You can take if it's bad. And he turned around and started smashing open the vase. Nothing major came out. A few round-colored creatures quickly followed the foot soldier that Anne quickly chomped. He looked around. Most of the vases has been smashed by now, and it's just broken one of the outer ones when an M fell out of it and swiftly vanished Annie. Peter yelled and hyped her across the chamber, but despite the extra speed, Pete failed to reach Chopper in time and they disappeared. Pete stopped and looked around. Confused with the sound of warping scientists alerted Pete, and he turned around. Anne in the middle of the chamber, not a trace of a wound visible, and the ominous voice spoke out. I said that there would be varying objects and things in the vases. Oh, and they get more dangerous the further you go out. But that's also where you will find your friends. And Anne, don't get used to dying and respawning in this realm. Every death counts in the real world. We stopped talking, Pete's turning back to breaking the vases at a fast rate. They won't end falling to another import zombie. As Pete smashed them faster, he realized that smashing a lot of them at one time was the best thing, and Pete was quickly overwhelmed and vanquished by a group of 18 bucketheads around him. Pete stomped back in to find Anne must have smashed the vase that contained Wolf, who was feeling the brown cup that had taken Pete out fiercely. Wolf was avenging his friend. Mama's voice spoke out again, smashed the vase Teen Wolf was feeling. Wait, the honest voice spoke out again. Well, look at all this chaos. Isn't it fun? Pete growled at the voice and yelled back. You're sick! Of course it isn't! Was somebody laughed and Pete got shot at from the side. He looked in the direction and purple pellets come from and vanquished the foot soldier that had fired him. 20 seconds later, Pete fell full, shame feeling overcoming him, pain coursing through his body. Wolf ran over to Pete and helped Pete up. It seemed like Pete was going to collapse if got hit by even a rock. Just after Wolf helped Pete up, Venus' voice spoke again. Congratulations, you passed. Now you shall all take to your own trials, and remember, the more you die, the closer you are really being dead. Damn. Some old friends. If any of the three planes could react, they would teleport to different rooms, each extremely different from the other. He looked around confused and dismayed. The room was like a place he hadn't seen in a very long time. He slowly approached a tree that hadn't changed since last seen it. The emphasis that was carved in the tree was still visible and readable. As Pete sat down next to the tree, his voice has been haunting him for the past 14 years, spoke out from behind the rustling wreck of a destroyed early model Z-Mac. You get away from there? You don't know what happened. Pete looked back in surprise and water over curiously on his face. His voice, he said, I do. I was at the scene Ash fell, and I'm the one who buried Elaine. I know where a hulking power chomper came out in the right, jumped down a curious Pisher and yelled, How do you know my name? Who are you? He looked up, open mouth of power chomper, electricity sparking through a large man as Pete said, Because I'm your friend. It's me, Pete. Power chomper looked down at the pin Pisher, growled and said angrily, You're coward. You're the reason I died. Now I'm gonna kill you. Before Pete could react, Power Chomper ripped out Pete's throat and left him to suffer a minute until the Pisher bleed out. Pete opened his eye again to find himself where he had started, where he was teleported into the room. He looked up to find Power Chomper looking at him in shock. Pete growled and said, What the heck, Ash? Power Chomper named Ash simply growled and nodded towards something behind Pete. Pete turned around to be confronted by a metal pedal weapon that Pete had seen only once beforehand. Pete hypered away from the metal pedal towards a collapsing structure. It was once a proud base, then a makeshift infirmary before being overrun years ago. He called out his rope. What's the matter, Pete? I thought you weren't a coward. I can't hurt you, Elaine. I can't. Nor I can hurt Ash. It would never harm a friend. Ash and Elaine laughed after hearing Pete, and Ash burrowed into the ground. Pete leaned against the wall and was using the cover, and when the ground in front of him burst open, Alec jumped out before. Pete grabbed part of the wooden beam that lay on the ground next to him and used it to lock the power chomper's mouth open and said, Ash, stop and think. Let me explain what happened and let me try to make it up to you. Power chomper nodded his head hesitantly and she would continue. Ash, I never meant to hurt you. I mean, if I had the opportunity, it would be me that's 6 feet under instead of you. Ash growled out of nowhere and needled himself in Pete's stem. A severe burning sensation formed around where the needle was implanted itself, and Pete helped but yell in pain. Elaine's malicious smile began to fade as the new memories Pisher that she had just shot flooded her mind. She realized that Pete wasn't the murderer her original memories. He made him out to be. Suppressed the pain. Had a knife from a nearby surgery bench and cut off the infected part of Pete's stem. The bandage that lay ground next to the injured Pisher, then quickly covered the large wound and said softly, Pete, I'm sorry. If I remember who you really were, I wouldn't have done this. Elaine gestured to the bandage that was quickly being soaked in Pisher's blood. Pete smiled at her and said briefly, It's not your problem. Elaine said in a shocked voice, You're mad at me? after what I thought I just put you through? Pete stuffed a laugh and said in his weak voice, "Of course not. I mean, friends forgive each other, right?" Lane smiled back at Pichu and said, "Yes, they do. Don't they, Ash?" Lane pulled the broken beam out of Ash's mouth and Ash said, "Yes, they do. Look, Pete. Sorry, think I remember who you really are now." Ash continued to say, while Pete began to dissolve as he being dragged to another room. Somewhere on the edge of suburbia, Power Chopper awoke them next to a worried-looking metal pedal. Metal pedal noticed Power Chopper was alright, signed relief and said, "Thank Dave, you're alright, Ash." I was getting worried. Ash smiled at Metal Pedal and said, "Of course I am."
Học hay là sao?
For some reason, nobody likes me to record videos. Because, oh yeah, it's already 10:30. Frick my life! Kayleen, I had this weird dream. You were in it. Pete was in it. Then gasped in shock and said, "Surprised. I had a similar dream. Did you forget Pete?" Ashley just a shout at her as he said, "Yes. What does it mean?" Back in the dream realm, Pete felt like he was falling, and he had no idea where or how fast. It's 10 seconds flat, and you'll get a drink, and then you die. That was not from anywhere. That's not even cooler than 20% reimage from My Little Pony. It's not that. Only 15 minutes, Pete slammed onto what he assumed was the floor hard. So pushing herself up, Pete looked around the plastic room he was trapped in. Yelled from behind, Pete shocked him, and he turned to find his son in his grips and the zombie that leads the assault against belief. Pete hyper towards son, stopped by plastic pane that couldn't break. Pete growled and said angrily, "Let him go, you undead, rotty bastard." Zombie laughed and said, "Oh what? You can't get me. Of course, what are manners? My name is Harrington. Let you know my uncle." Continued growled the zombie and said, "I'll destroy you. Let's just skip the formalities and fight already." Then somebody laughed and said, "Tsk, I thought you already knew the pain of fighting." He could react. He was being thrown across the room he was trapped in and felt the spike impale itself through his stab. He looked at the injury and shrugged it off. He could afford to die a few times when son appeared to be distressed and he yelled, "Dad, no! Please, leave him alone!" Harrison laughed hard and slapped the fire pit that he held by the neck. Desmond whimpered and Pete pushed himself off the spike. A large hole ran through his chest. Pete ignored the hole and threw himself against the wall of the room that contained him until they shattered. Then stumbled away from the bloody pusher and finished him off with a firing, blasting shotgun of paleontology. Pete felt himself enter the dark again. So he awoke in a room that he hadn't seen for over 12 years, and one that brought him to some of the most painful moments. Pete looked around the restaurant. Allison sat opposite to him, a wide smile across her face, glass of water and equivalent of a hand. The smile changed to a worried expression and said, "Pete, what's the matter? You feeling ill?" "What's the matter? Are you feeling ill?" He shook his head and asked, "Well, what's the date?" Allison looked even more confused and said, "May 5th. Thought you would remember the day of our anniversary and the date the war started." He frowned and said, "Oh, okay, thanks, Allison. Where's Desmond?" Allison looked worried as she said sad, "Desmond hasn't been alive for 13 years, Pete. Can't believe you can't remember that your own son is dead." Allison stood up and slapped the confused Pisha as she continued, "What's up with you?" Pete frowned hard as she confused. "I don't know, Allison. How long has it been since you saved my life first?" I sat down and calmed the Pisha and she said, 27 years. He fell out of the chair he was sitting and stamped. 27? What's going on? I'm only 30. I'm 43. So looked at the panicking Pisha and said confused, "I think maybe we need to get out of here." Nowhere, something caused Pete to black out. He woke in a chamber that appeared to be more of a hallway than anything else. He looked around to find Ain and Wolf with him. His complaints appeared to be discussing something. As Pete got closer, he realized that the armor chopper and the plasma Pete were arguing over something. But what is it? Maybe like, hey bro, you want to get some cheap codes on FIFA? Or maybe like, hey bro, you know the coin generator which makes you have unlimited coins? I do have card generators, coin generators. I spent. Now I have Team of the Year Messi, and Record Breaker Messi. Also Team of the Year Ronaldo. That was hard, actually. Well, if y'all did go south, Pete personally knew the danger of facing an enraged Chomper. He was willing to die multiple times to protect either Ain or Wolf from the other plant. As soon as Pete has finished approaching the plants, stopped arguing and greeted, smiled weakly at the two plants and asked them a question. When Wolf's expression went blank, he started to growl. Pete frowned at Wolf and very soon and was also growling. Pete began to step back the two plants. As soon as he did, Ain lunged at him. Pete managed to dodge the armor chopper's deadly teeth. He was able to dodge Ain entirely, and Pete was knocked on his back. Pete pushed himself up, but he quickly vanquished by Wolf, who was rooting the floor in a gatling mode. Pete gasped as he awoke the same root chain. Wolf was unrooted, while Ain was nowhere to be seen. By the time Pete hypered Wolf, he kept his eye open for Ain. Despite the extra speed, Wolf was able to keep up and shot Pete back a few times. He grabbed and resisted the urge to fight back when he wasn't going to harm Wolf. But being chased for over a minute, Pete ran into something solid. It was definitely not a wall. Looking up, Pete cast as a power pole crushed him, pain beginning to course its way through him. Gargantua picked up the injured Pisha and blank expression plasmidly. Wolf stopped growling and snapped back to his senses. He gasped in shock. In fact, he was in grasp of a Gargantua. Noah Harrington teleported atop Gargantua, and his convincing smile said, "So Pete, enjoying Chamber so far?" He stood growling at the science. He sat atop Gargantua smugly. Whoa. Sorry guys, I kind of have to pause the recording a bit because there's a cockroach in my freaking house. So he should grab a sign and sat atop it and said sarcastically, "Haven't found any better." Harrington continued to smile. He said, "I'm here to offer you a deal. Kill the other two and walk out of here, or die for good. And the other two go free." God Harrington said proudly, "Neither. I won't go without a fight. I won't let you harm them." Harrington Ground said angrily, "Now you don't get a choice. Kill them all, once and for all." That is so rhymey, but I don't give a damn. If I'm Pete, I would ask, okay, maybe you against me. If I win, you have to release all three of us. If not, just release them. With that, Harrington teleported out of the room and Wolf disappeared. Pete began to growl as the Gargantua began to tighten its grip on him. He had to think to himself, so this is the end, being crushed by Gargantua. No, don't think like that. You need to get out of here and save the other two. Gargantua tightened their grip. Pete expected to feel the life being drained out of him when instead felt all the more alive. As he blacked out, he woke in a different chamber. A strange sensation running up through him. It was as if the chamber was an extension of himself. A strange feeling ran through the chamber, so Pete went hyper towards it. Instead, he teleported in front of the source of the feeling. He looked up to find Wolf on the verge of death, so Pete would feed the energy that flowed through him. The weakened plasma Pete brought him back to full health. Wolf looked at Pete in shock and thanked him. Pete smiled at his friend and asked, "Where's Ain?" "Gone. He's already back in his body." Pete smiled and said, "That's good. Look, I wish you luck in life." But Wolf couldn't ask anything. He was awake. Properly awake. Even leaning over him as he lay on the leaf infirmary. Pete smiled at himself and focused his energy on the last entity that has presented the dream realm that he trapped in. Heritans. As he found it, he teleported right in front of the angry-looking zombie who said in shock, "What?" How did you survive? He grabbed Harrington in an intimidating voice. Doesn't matter. Your death is all that matters. Harrington laughed meaninglessly and said in a voice that sounded almost demonic. Doesn't matter, you idiot. Remember, this is still my realm. I can kill you right now without lifting a hand. Harrison said that. Pete felt the life drain out of him as he collapsed. Harrison quickly looked up at the body of the boy plant she held till they both withered away. He had just spasmed, but this time he stopped as quickly as had started. Harrison looked worried as she looked for a pulse that she couldn't find one. Pete's heart had stopped. Allison began to cry as she said, No, why was his heart stopped? Please no, please no. Cactus that had been talking to the armored chomper walked over to Allison and said softly, I'm sorry. Allison pushed Cactus away and said angrily, Please, just leave me alone. Wolf hopped out of the bed he was in, approached Allison and said softly, Hey Allison, he's dead. He died to save me, and he would have died to save Anne if he had to. So he yelled at the plants that he gathered around her, tears falling her life blue eyes. I asked you to leave me alone. He was my best friend. More than a friend. Allison couldn't carry on. The tears that usually evaporated from her face after a few seconds found a creature that she had never had to tell how truly she felt about her. Wolf looked at Allison, and a sad look on his face reminded him of Vivian a few years ago. Not wanting to suffer a similar fate to Vivian himself, Wolf grabbed the weapon that he assumed made him, and Aiden and Pete entered the dream realm and walked into the hallway. Wolf shot himself with the weapon and he began to feel drowsy. 3 seconds later, Wolf blacked out and he felt like he was falling. Wolf didn't come back into the infantry after a few minutes. Vivian walked into the hallway, nearly screamed at the sight she was facing. Wolf lay on the floor, unmoving. The weapon that has caused Wolf and Pete to pass from the middle world into the dream realm lay in his paw. He ran over to Wolf, carried him back to the infantry, laid him back in the bed. Wolf hit the solid stone chamber with the floor with a thud. Looking around, Wolf found himself in the last chamber he was trapped in. The sound of gunfire and yelps of pain went from the far side of the large chamber. Wolf hypered across to find Pete, covered in so many cuts and laxatives. It's a miracle he was still standing. While Pete said a machine that tried to stomp Pete, the bloodied Pete jumped out of the way and hypered in front of the machine that had just tried to crush him. Wolf hypered out of behind his cover and joined Pete on the spot of the machine. Pete didn't notice Wolf as he continued to scale the large machine. Wolf shook his head and followed the Pete as they ascended the robot's upper body. Just as Pete was about to reach the neck of the robot, a smaller Z-back operated by an imp that looks had come from space dropped down on the same shoulder Pete was on. The blade that appeared to emit pure light that shaped like a cone protruded from one of Z-Mech's black metal fist. The Z7 Mech Grass Effect! It's the Grass Effect Mech. Despite looking like he was about to collapse, he easily dodged the blade and continued to make his way up the side of the robot. When Wolf made it up on his shoulder, Z-Mech wasn't on. The sound of gunshots broke on the other shoulder and the sound of plant thumping against the steel rang out. Soon Wolf hypered to the other shoulder to find Pete laying on the shoulder base of the neck. Pete struggling to push himself up. The operator of the Z-Mech laughed and using the steel foil of their Z-Mechs pinned Pete's shoulder and said meaninglessly, You were so close, but now you'll be gone for good. Wolf jumped at the Z-Mech to try and distract the imp, passed straight through the Z-Mech. A confused look forming on his face. Wolf turned around, the sound of the blade entering Pete's stem sounded out. Blood-covered Pete refusing to yell out, his blade dug deeper and deeper in. A hissing sound came from above and the glassy canopy opened. So the army that had led the assault against Leaf came out and teleported down. It said quiet, Give you one last chance. Work for me. I'll spare your painful life. Despite the blade that was embedded inside, Pete shot the zombie and said angrily, You're a fool, Harrington. My death will only embalm my friends. And Pete gasped. Something had stopped him from finishing his sentence. Wolf also gasped when he grabbed him and he felt something being dragged into the scene that he just witnessed. Harrington looked up and smiled at Wolf menacingly and said, Wolf Everest, come to watch the last few seconds with this useless plants alive? Wolf grabbed the zombie, hypered into Z. extra speed to jump on the back of it before the imp could react. Below him, Wolf could hear the imp growling and command his Z-Mate to pull the light blade out of Pete and try to slice Wolf. As the blade came down to kill Wolf, Cosmo jumped off the Z-Mech and let out the blade to seal armor through the mech and knock it out of action. He ejected out of Z-Mech, which fell off his shoulder of the giant robot that stood. He coughed up some blood and looked around. Each weight was suddenly removed from him as he saw the imp coming down towards his shoulder. Continued to look around despite knowing he should be dead. He looked around. Remembered Harrington mentioning Wolf. As soon as Pete noticed Wolf, the world blacked out. So I hit him in the back of the head. Our chopper metal approached a giant metal surface that only Petal has ever seen. And they slowly approached it. They were approached by Commander Pishu, one that neither of them had seen since they had died. And they said, "Halt! What's your business here?" They realized they were only just recently been in battle. The ground was covered in pea stains, spikes, burn marks, and all. "We're here to see an old friend. We got news that they were injured in the fight, and we wanted to make sure they were fine." Colonel Pishu looked at the two of them, a look of extreme thought in his face, and asked, "Do I know either of you?" Both plants immediately shook their heads at the commander. "All right then, you both can go through. Just be careful, Elaine. I don't know if anyone else will recognize you, but watch out for her, Ash." No, Pishu ran off to a different part of the cover the plants had put up. They fought off the zombie assault. Elaine and Ash looked at each other in shock before approaching the large metallic base, showing where the doors appear to have been. They entered a large lobby. Signs of battle were prevalent. It seemed that this was where the majority of the fighting has been. Entering the lobby, they were approached by fire cactus, who asked, "Why are you here?" Ash said calmly to the fire cactus, "We are here to see an old friend. I believe he is in the infantry." Fire cactus looked skeptical and asked, "And who is this old friend?" "Pete. It's Lathos, who believed he's here." Fire cactus now sick 2 phone. Said, "That's some regrettable news. Pete has been reported as dead. He died last night in here." Fire cactus signaled them into a room that was marked on the infantry, walking off to continue their duties. Ash and Ellie into a large infantry that was bustling. One of the small section was being avoided. Two plants walked over to find Pete and Wolf laying on separate beds. To us, distraught-looking Allison and Alien Flower. Allison looked up from the course of the plant she had tried so hard to bring from a realm that an armored chomper who was trapped in the realm with Pete called the Dream Realm. She immediately stepped back in shock. She thought she was seeing a ghost, as the power chomper said. "Allison, are we too late?" Allison nodded hesitantly and said in shock, "Ash? Elaine? Are you two alive?" Chomper nodded at Allison, who smiled, pointing her arms. Elaine approached Pete's body, gasped and said, He really is dead." Allison sighed and said softly, "He's trapped in some kind of dream realm, apparently." Ash immediately cut Allison's off and asked, "How do you get there?" Allison sighed again and said, "There's only one way. Even then, it's not guaranteed you return." Ash walked over to Allison and said happily, "Fine then, send me in after that." After that, Pete showed up. Wolf grabbed Harrison. The zombie had kicked Pete in the back of the head, which knocked out the exhausted Pishu. Before Wolf could reach him down friend, Harrison grabbed Pete and threw him off the shoulder they stood on. Wolf growled and nearly yelled out before lunging at the zombie that stood smugly in front of him. Halfway through the lunge, Harrington teleported behind Wolf and grabbed the enraged plasma Pishu from behind. Wolf gasped in shock as a rotting hand wrapped around his throat. Harrison held Wolf on the edge of the shoulder, massive jaws seeming more intimidating than any other falls, and said immediately, "You planned so many times to break by falling from the height? What if the fall could actually knock you out?" As Viserys finished speaking, he released Wolf and teleported back to command the seat of the giant robot. Wolf fell for half a minute. Didn't care. Believed he would survive the fall like any other planes and zombies in that case. When Wolf hit the floor, the unexpected happened. He was feel the pain of slamming into the solid stone, blacked out. Peter laughed from the top of the machine. All he had to do was step forward and crush two P-shirts, which would kill them. For good. Ash fell a needle into his stem before he quickly blacked out. He woke in a large room that appeared to be desolated. The sound of gunfire and argument ringing out on the far side of the room. Ash rushed towards the argument and found a sight that made him angry. Pete lay on the floor, unconscious in a pool of his own blood, and next to him lay Wolf, uninjured but unconscious. Ash ran towards two fallen friends when a large foot appeared on the road. He was going to crush the three of them. Ash grabbed Pete and Wolf in his mouth and carried them out of the way of the robot's path. A few seconds after getting out of the way of the rope, the foot hit the ground. Ash dropped his two friends and revived them. I looked as shocked at their face when they spotted the ball our chomper had just saved. Any of the three planes could ask questions. They were being bombarded by a mix of zombie projectiles, explosive rugby balls, pellets whose covered Ryan across many colors of the rainbow, and even spears of electricity. Then split up. Ash broke ground. Pete and Wolf hypering in separate directions. Splitting up, Wolf and Pete were hit by many of the projectiles of Ash get into the machine by trying to bite through the metal armor. Ash gave up trying to bite armor and tried to climb the machine, but he was unable to. The Wolf closed distance with the robot, hopped onto the large feet of the road. Wolf fell back behind some cover and waited for an opportunity to strike. Despite the blood loss and injuries, Pete was determined to make it back to his body. It meant he would fight off 10 hordes of zombies in a gargantuan. Wolf watched his foot was on as Pete climbed the machine rapidly, so Wolf began to ascend it as well. As Pete made it through the waste of the machine, 10 foot soldiers appeared out of nowhere. They weren't armed with the assault blaster that most foot soldiers were armed. They were armed with a plethora of melee weapons that ranged from swords to knives, and even a pole. He grasped, he knocked onto his back by baton-wielding soldier. Something inside him telling him to let his instincts take over. Wolf reached his waist. It seemed like soldiers were too occupied dealing with Pete to notice. Wolf went to vanquish some soldiers. The sight of Pete making quick work of the soldiers told him to keep it going. Wolf was back on the soldier of the robot. He looked down to see how Pete and Ash were going. Wolf expected Pete to still be on the belt around the waist of the robot. Instead, he was on the ground being assaulted by a large number of brown guards. The shocking sight that Wolf was presented with was that Pete and Ash were back to back, both plans keeping each other alive. They were clearly going to lose. There were just too many brown cards. Despite wanting to intervene, Wolf knew that he wouldn't make it to them in time, so he continued to talk, now that he hoped to save himself and his friends. He had his back against Ash's. Two planes fought for survival against the horde of brown cups that encircled him. Ash using the electricity he could spray his large mouth. Pete using a mix of peas and ability he never knew he had. Pete swung the short thorn vine that protruded from his right paw against a buckethead ground while shooting head of another. Ash shocked a larger zombies, but though immediately replaced, both hands began to feel the drain in their health as they took more and more hits. Long coats were overwhelming them. Furious, Ash felt the pea shooter behind him go limp. He finally succumbed to the blows. Ash knew he wasn't far from it either. Wolf watched in shock as Pete went limp after being slammed with a screen door. Ash quickly falling as well. Brown coats yelled in celebration. Wolf looked into the eyes of Harrington, so it would pay for what he had just caused. Harrington smirked as Wolf, who ignored the arrogant zombie and successfully tackled him. The smirk quickly fading from their face. Began beating the zombie with a pole that had come from the roof of the robot's head. Harrington pushed Wolf out of himself easily and teleported out of the robot. Wolf growled and began pushing buttons until a portal opened in the robot's head. Smile hit self-destruct them. Didn't know what happened. Tempted him to do it. He immediately thought of the Leminger's cousins, Legumino's house cousin. Wolf hypered out through the portal to find himself in the infantry. A look of relief on William's face when she noticed him. A look of anguish of Elaine and Allison's face when they noticed him. After a few minutes, Wolf began to frown. Actually, Pete should have come back by now. It had come up. It seemed like it should have worked. Allison and Pete went a pair of something out of a small fire pit entered the intersection of infantry. Alison smiled weakly at her sudden appearance for saying, I failed him. I failed myself. Well, since you're here, Mom and Dad, this is Pete. Bill and Tunia looked at each other some word before this. It seemed like he died a Lazarus death. When are we gonna bury him? Kind of anguish said sad. I guess he died a fool's death. Why don't you just let Wolf get shot? He would be here if he had. Anything to reply Allison said, Screw said weakly. Oh, where am I? Jumped up and joined, hugged the power charm, still laying in bed, said, "Thank goodness you're alright. What happened?" Ash frowned. "I don't know. I remember was talking to this wolf and a blood-covered Pichu." As Ash said blood-covered Pichu, had an English, until something rubbed her back and a voice said softly but weak, "Hey, don't cry. If you feel bad, it makes me feel worse." Alison looked down at the bed. Pete enjoyed and pulled the Pichu in a hug. Pete groaned and continued, "Hey, Alison, you're gonna crush what little's left in out of me." Wait, I cannot say things very emotionally because I've not read the story yet. But the only chapters I've read before was chapter 1 and 2. That's it. "Hey, Alison, you're gonna crush what is left in me." Alison loosened her grip and continued to hug Pete. Returned her gesture. Behind Alison, Desmond yelled out, "Dad, you're alive! Oh, thank Dave!" He looked over Alison to see his son and 2 sunflowers he had never seen. The sunflower must have sensed his confusion, and the female one said, "I'm Petunia. I'm Alison's mother, and this..." Petunia gestured to Sunflower stood beside her and continued, "It's Lou. He's Alison's father." He looked at 2 sunflowers, saying, "It's nice to meet you both. Tell but you can't meet my parents. My brother died protecting my brother, and my father is a tree." Pete spoke of his father in distinguished tone. Lou replied kindly, "It's fine. So, your daughter's gonna be partnered with a Lathyrus." Alison and Pete stopped hugging, and Alison said to her, "Well, I was hoping that answer would be yes." Alison turned to Pete. "When you feel better, I'd like to know if you want to go to a nice little restaurant down south in suburbia." He smiled at Alison and said happily, "Of course. How could I miss that kind of opportunity?" Alison smiled at Pete for anyone what was happening. Pete and Alison were kissing. Jesus Christ. Kissing is just weird. This is weird. I cannot even imagine how a Pichu kisses a sunflower. Seriously. Oh my god, I'm seeing. Wow Jam! Frick you! I needed Wall Jam so that my internet would be faster. And then they're giving me porn ads. Or I think that's porn ads, but it's ads with people who are naked. Pete, Wolf, and Ash spent a few days recovering the leaf furniture. 3 plants getting a multitude of guests. Some family, some friends, some just to listen to what they went through. On the 3rd day, Alison, Vivian, Elaine, Desmond, Lou, and Petunia walked into the infantry, and Alison said, "Pete, I hope you don't mind me inviting everyone. Parents want to talk to you," and then Elaine wanted to know if she and Ash could come, so I invited Vivian and Wolf. Pete, Ash, and Wolf hopped off their beds and set off to join their respective families. The group left the infantry and entered the corridor. The eccentric citrus operator corps asked, "Where to?" Alison smiled at them and said, "Three Sisters Restaurant, please." As the cactus smiled slightly for celebrating the port device to teleport the strange plants to the Three Sisters Restaurant to the south of the corridor. Pete, Alison, Desmond, Wolf, Vivian, Ash, Elaine, Lou, and Petunia stood as a group outside the restaurant. An old overgrown building that served as a restaurant hadn't changed in 12 years. A group of plants walked through the restaurant with an optimistic power cactus greeted them in their unique Russian accent and asked, "So, table number 9. Alison nodded and the power cactus lead the... I don't know how you do the Russian voice, but I'm just doing it like the French voice. "So, table number 9, eh?" Alison nodded and the power lead them to a group of 9 to table. Table for 9, actually. To a table that overlooked the large garden. It was more like a park that grew beside the restaurant. Hence, but Pete sat down. He was about to... when a sacred fire Pete grabbed his arm and asked softly, "Do I know you?" Pete shook his head and said, "Don't know if I know you, but the name's Pete Lathyrus." Fire Pete stepped back in shock and said, "But Pete, you're the son of Elaine and Conrus Lathyrus?" Pete stepped back in shock and this time stammered, "Yes? How do you know?" Fire Pete sighed and said quietly, "We're cousins. Our moms are twins." How's Aunt Elaine anyway? Pete sighed and said, "Sad. It's dead. She died to save my brother." Father Pete repeated, shocking, said sadly, "I'm sorry. No wonder Mom was worried sick. Pete, come with me. You need to meet your aunt. She's been dying to see you if you're alright." Pete nodded. The fire hesitantly enough. "Why don't I remember you, if you are my cousin?" Fire Pete face palmed and said with embarrassment, "I forgot my manners. Name is Ambrose Flatherus, and you probably can't remember me because you were only a sapling when I last saw you." Pete nodded slowly and let Ambrose led him over to a table at the far side of the restaurant. Till it sat a law who appeared to be busy playing with an arrow that was stuck through the hat next to an ice cube that looks extremely familiar to Pete's mom. She looked at her son Ambrose and said, "I told you, I'm not getting into another relationship." Ambrose shook his head and said proudly, "Mom, this isn't any old Peacher. It's your nephew, Pete." Icevy looked at her son Pete in shock for managing to stammer. "Pete? Is it you? How's my sister?" Pete looked at my Icevy before her. Tears in her eyes. Pete said sadly, "Yes, Auntie Mom is dead." Icevy bent over and said in shock, "No, she can't be. How?" Pete patted the back of his distressed aunt and said, "She didn't die in vain. She died protecting me and my brother." Ambrose said after hearing Pete mention his brother, "How's Cousin Jack anyway?" Looked at Ambrose and said sadly, "Does well. He died the same way." Either plan could continue. Distressed Icevy whispered, "It's all my fault. I should have never left home. Why did I fall in love with Dad?" His cousin's mother often said, "No, Mom, it's not your fault. None of us could have predicted this, and you wouldn't have lived with yourself if Dad had died." Icevy nearly yelled out, "But he is dead. My twin sister, my nephew, my partner, my child, all lost, because I couldn't protect them." Peter signaled Ambrose to not say anything and said himself, "Hey, Auntie, it's not your fault. We couldn't have predicted these deaths. I know it's in us to feel at fault when someone we care about dies or gets hurt. We feel bad as if we failed them ourselves. But I need to remember, we aren't always the one at fault, even if our bodies scream that we were." As he wiped the crystallized tears away before looking at his nephew and saying, "Thank you, Peter. It means a lot to me. Please promise that you won't die. There are only 4 of our families left." He down and asked, "4?" Pete's aunt. He looked around and said sadly, There's myself, Ambrose, you, and Orion left." Pete's mom said happily, "Make that 5. You forgot my son, Desmond." Ambrose looked at Pete in shock and said, "You have a son? Pete, you're more successful at life than me, and I'm older than you." Pete blushed and said uneasily, "You have a son?" "I'm just lucky. Hey, come with me. You can meet my family and friends." He helped up, then he signaled the lobby and followed them. Pete approached the table his family and his friends were sitting at. He introduced the remainder of the family. Pete went around the table and introduced each family individually. Introducing them, Pete introduced the latest members of his family to friends around the table. "Well, the ice pea is my auntie, 5 peas of Ambrose, and the law pea is Orion." The mix of ahs and hellos around the table. Excuse me, my throat hurts for some reason now. Pete sat down and invited his family members to sit with him. So he did, and Orion said, "Last time I remember being at the table with so many plants was when we had our last family reunion." Ambrose said, "Brother, that was over 20 years ago. That day our family was nearly wiped from suburbia." There were a few gasps around the table, and Pete couldn't help but ask, "What do you mean our family was nearly wiped out of suburbia? How?" Orion and Ambrose growled while Pete's aunt cried softly. 2 brothers calling her, and said angrily, "Of all plants, you should know the danger of setting from the family. The traitors nearly destroyed our families. The cowards attacked at the reunion. attacked us whenever they got the opportunity. They would take us down one by one. We just picked up the sword and continued. They never fought fair. One method is standing up to Brancos, and at least six of their bastard traitors. Orion came back in and continued. Manos left her. Or of course, our greatest trait, used to have a fine trait against us, making us give our lives to save others. This time, Pete's aunts continued the story. And so, our family has been slowly killed off by Sadabim. They see us all as the greatest threat to their survival. Orman came back in and finished the story. We fought back, of course, but we never killed any of them. We were all too bound by our morals to harm them badly. He stabbed 3 plants and shot and Sam. But what? How many of us died this? My friend said, out of 112 of us who were alive at the beginning of the war, only 80 were killed in the front lines. The rest were killed by Sadavim. The crowd loudly and said, why does no one else know of this? The nurse said painfully, and yet Sadavim finally find out. Hunt us down, finished their job we started years ago. So, 80 of them died in the front lines. The rest, which is either 7, I guess. Wait, 107. It's either 27 or 26 people got killed. I mean, 27 or 28 people were plants in the family were killed by the Sadavim. But anyways, guys, that was a pretty long story. And I wish I could actually go and get to another live stream with the YouTuber I said, Caubengungo. I didn't remember his name, but he's actually a good YouTuber, especially in the game which is named Truy Kich. It's kind of like Counter-Strike Go, but improved. So a lot of the maps were in here, and they finished the plans of the freaking thing, including one time Counter-Strike Go actually won like a AI mode, and the boss was a frog with a bottle stuck to its anus. This time they did it, but it's a hell dog with a bottle stuck to its penis. And then there's also the twin assassins. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and wish me luck next time, guys. Peace out. Happy Lunar New Year. Actually, happy early Lunar